My father worked as a night watchman at a company. He and his work group had been threatened for years, but everything seemed normal. However, one night things took a dark turn. I had a terrible feeling and begged him not to go to work, but he just laughed it off, saying he wasn't afraid of anything. That night he didn't come home. The next day, we received the devastating news that he had been killed during a robbery at the company. My world shattered completely. I blamed myself for not being able to convince him to stay home, and the guilt consumed me. In my grief, I began to experience strange occurrences. I would hear whispers in the night and feel a cold presence in my room. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, a manifestation of my sorrow. But as the days passed, these experiences became more intense. I started seeing shadows moving in the corners of my eyes, and sometimes I would feel a gentle touch on my shoulder, as if someone was trying to console me. I was terrified but also strangely comforted, believing it might be my father trying to reach out to me from beyond. Desperate for answers, I started researching the supernatural and even attempted to communicate with him through various means. I wanted to know if he was at peace, if he had any messages for me, or if there was something he needed me to do. As time went on, I learned to live with these experiences. They became a part of my life, a reminder of the connection I still felt with my father. Though the pain of his loss never fully disappeared, the sense of his presence gave me strength. I realized that even though he was gone, he would always be with me in spirit, guiding and protecting me as best he could. But as I already mentioned, he didn't want to listen to me. I told him it didn't matter if he couldn't bring enough money home anymore, or if he couldn't buy me what I asked for, even though he made a great effort to do so. What had to happen happened, and my father died. I felt completely guilty. After his death, his family turned against my mother over the inheritance. A woman appeared, claiming a share too, as she had a child with him. I had already suspected some things because I'm very curious. The fact is that my mother was isolated and rejected by that family. The sorrows kept piling up: my father's death, financial problems, and my mother's declining health. All of this filled me with immense resentment, and I didn't want to complicate things by talking about what was happening in my room. I'm Catholic, so I always prayed and asked God for my father and mother. Even though I did this daily, I felt alone. School didn't help much because of the comments I received, so I decided to stop attending. My mother didn't scold or get upset about it. Maybe she knew it wouldn't help. I'm the kind of person who, if not motivated, doesn't do things as they should be done. I was completely alone at home since she had to work and my brother studied all day. Time passed and I lost all motivation. I couldn't sleep well and had fevers. I knew that whatever was in my room was feeding off me. Somehow, my depression and negative thoughts had drawn it in. I was so scared that for 4 months, I didn't turn off the lights at night because if I left the room dark, the tea would turn cold within minutes. I never saw anything, but the feeling of chills was always there. It seemed to enjoy watching me sleep. I noticed this because when I closed my eyes to rest, it would come closer, perhaps to see or ensure I was still awake. Its gaze was horrible, cold, and heavy. All I could do was turn my back and cover myself up to my mouth to warm my breath and breathe easily. If I was lucky, I could sleep about 3 hours at night, so I made up for it in the mornings. This seemed to annoy it since I slept in the living room when my mother watched TV. It seemed that daylight weakened it, just like the lamp's light, which kept it at a distance from me. Despite this, my health deteriorated significantly. I was very pale and my lips were purple. I had almost no color and I had a very high fever. At that moment, I felt as if I was facing my own death, but it no longer mattered to me. I just whispered in a very low voice, "Dad, help me." After saying this, the entity came so close to me that I felt immense terror, as I didn't know if it wanted my soul or to kill me. But shortly after, I also felt someone gently caress my forehead. It was my dad, trying to calm me and telling me everything would be okay. From that night, that presence disappeared, although not completely. I still feel it, but only occasionally. I don't know how, but my father was watching over me. Gradually, I tried to improve my health and emotional state. I no longer feel my father's presence. I suppose he now rests in peace, knowing that we are better with my family and that I can take care of myself. As a curious fact, I started sensing deaths when I was about 7 years old. Along with my 2 cousins and my brother, we played something similar to the pencil game, except my cousin told us the game was called Marcita. Perhaps this could have been the cause of what triggered the entity, or rather, It cursed you.